as we just switch over here to broadcasting. And we're live on Facebook. Yippee. All right. So welcome, Devin Burke. So excited to have you here.
Excited to be here.
So we are live in this group that I run called Yoga and More, day by day with Hannah Levin. And we explore lots of different topics here. And today, as I have all the hype is real, here is Devin Burke. All right, and I've got you pulled up here on my phone so I can see comments as they come in. Excellent. We have 5 people watching right now. More will be coming on, I am sure. So welcome, Devin. I'm just going to formally introduce you here. So Devin Burke helps high achievers and exhausted insomniacs get and stay asleep so they can wake up with more peace, power, and presence. He is an author, speaker, coach, and founder of the Sleep Science Academy, which helps people stop suffering and start sleeping using a unique holistic approach based in science. He was also named one of the top 25 health coaches in America. Woohoo! That's awesome. Way to go. So welcome. And how about you just start by telling us why sleep?
Yeah, so I'll give you the quick version because I know we have a
Okay.
lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, I've been studying health and wellness for, about 15 years. And it really wasn't until the last like really 5 years that I stumbled on sleep. And so all through my wellness journey of studying nutrition and mindset and all these other things, I never really learned that much about sleep. And then a client asked me, "Hey, I'm having some challenges sleeping. Like, can you help me?" And I picked up a book by Matt Walker called Why We Sleep. And it's an amazing book. Highly recommend it. Not to
Yeah.
insomniacs, but to everyone else. And it just really opened my eyes to like how sleep is the foundation that health is built on. I never
Yeah.
knew about sleep science. I never knew. I thought it was like sleep's just something I do every night. I don't really have that big of a challenge sleeping. It's not a problem for me. But anyway, so the more I learned about it, the more fascinated I became with it. And so I started to learn more. And the more I learned, the more fascinated I became. And I just said, you know what? This is a huge problem for a lot of people. And I looked at the solutions and I said, these solutions aren't very good. Sleeping pills, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia works for some people, doesn't work for everyone. And I said, you know what? Based off of all the other stuff that I studied and what I'm now learning with sleep science and getting certified in all these different sleep certifications, I feel like I could truly help people that are stuck, that have true insomnia. And so that just led me into this path of teaching people about sleep. And ironically, I'm like an amazing sleeper. So it's ironic that I'm teaching people that literally entire life, 30, 40 years, have had issues with their sleep, have tried everything, and I'm able to help them overcome their insomnia and get the sleep that they need. So it's kind of ironic, but it's really, I feel honored to be able to do it because it's sleep has to do with everything in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. So it's not like it was your struggle and then you are now teaching people because you've overcome it, but that you recognize how important it is and it's a skill that you have. And
Exactly.
and
Yeah. I
well,
know a lot of people get into their field because it's like they were struggling
right.
with this painful thing, and then, for me, it really I just happened to kind of stumble on it because someone
Yeah.
else was suffering that I cared about, and I said, well, let me look and see if I can help this person,
Yeah.
and then it just like
All clicked.
opened my
Oh,
eyes. Yeah.
awesome. So just for the folks that are watching, we now have 16 people live. For any of you that are watching, as we're chatting here, if you have questions for Devin, type them in the chat and I'll be happy to relay them to him. But we're going to keep chatting here. So Devin, tell us why is sleep so important?
Oh my gosh, where should I start, Anna? I mean, so first off, a lot happens when we're sleeping.
Right.
So in some stages of sleep, our brain is actually more active than when we're awake. And so the big thing with sleep, it's all about recovery. It's all about physical recovery. This is when our immune systems repair. This is when toxins are removed from our body, and we all have toxins and cancer floating around in our body. And it's during the night that our cells actually, it's like little trash men come out and they clean up all the garbage. It's when our brains actually have a chance to, like I say, reboot, kind of like a computer. You have, during the day, you have all these browsers open and life's coming at you. During the night, you start to close out those browsers, and a wash, like this dish, it's not a dishwasher, I call it like a dishwasher, this fluid washes over our brain. It's called the glymphatic system, which is like the lymph system for the brain, washes out beta amyloid and all the plaque that builds up that creates Alzheimer's. I mean, we dream, and dreaming is when we work out emotional trauma. It's like emotional first aid, and it helps us come up with new, creative, innovative ideas. And so there's so much that happens every single night when we close our eyes and we go unconscious. And we can get into more about specifics of what happens, when it happens, and all that. But
yeah,
an overview, that is why sleep is so important. It's the foundation of energy. Without sleep, no energy. Without energy, I mean, you're not going to be able to really accomplish anything in life.
right.
So
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
why.
So I love that you talk about the trashmen coming in, because that's how I talk about it too, in teaching about the importance of sleep, is that we need to be asleep. Especially, I'm wondering if this correlates to what you teach. In Ayurveda, we have the understanding of the doshic clock, and that especially between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. is when that really deep cleaning happens. Is that true from what you teach and what you've learned as well?
Yeah, so science now confirms the 5,000-year-old wisdom
Right.
that is true. And I call those the money sleep hours. And so in sleep science, throughout the night, you go through different phases and cycles of sleep. And the first quarter of that night, so what you just said, from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, that's when deep sleep happens. Delta sleep, that's the deepest stage of sleep. And that's when our bodies really go into this repair and recovery mode. This is when we literally get restored. Our cells get restored. It's this phase of deep sleep. And it's probably, if you had to put one of what is the most important phase of sleep, I would say it's deep sleep. And then very close behind that is REM sleep, which is where dreaming happens. But 100%, those are the optimal hours for deep sleep, the first quarter of the night.
Great. Yeah. So I love when modern science recognizes what Ayurveda teaches. So how about with, in terms of the amount of sleep? People say like, oh, I'm good if I get 6 hours of sleep, or I have to have 9 hours of sleep. And what are your thoughts about amounts of sleep?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the National Sleep Foundation recommends between 7 to 9 hours for an adult. I mean, as you go through life, that's going to, as a baby should sleep more, then teenagers actually need more sleep. And then as for adults, between 7 and 9. Now, specifically, how much do you need? It's based on several things. So some of those things are your genetics. Some of those things are your diet. Some of those things are how you're moving your body, how much stress you experience. Generally, most people do not get enough sleep, and then they don't realize that they're not sleeping enough, and that becomes their normal. And it's really hard so you think, oh yeah, I feel pretty good, I have pretty good energy, I think I'm getting enough sleep. I sleep maybe 6.5 hours, that's enough. But if you experimented for at least a couple of weeks of getting maybe a little bit more sleep, you might be surprised how big a difference it actually makes in your creativity, your mental performance, your energy, your mood. So you got to kind of experiment with that, but based off of your chronobiology or your genetics, it's going to range depending on the person. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. And there's so much we could tie into Ayurveda, but I want to keep the focus on you here. Talk to us a little bit about insomnia and different types of insomnia.
Yeah, so insomnia really is difficulty either falling asleep or staying asleep. And so in sleep science, we have onset insomnia, which is difficulty falling asleep, and maintenance insomnia, which is difficulty staying asleep. Now, you can have both. And then there's different degrees of severity depending on the duration that you're challenged with this. So after 3 months, it can be considered as chronic. And what happens is it starts off usually as what we call in sleep science transient or temporary insomnia, which is very common. And then it can turn into acute insomnia, which is for several weeks up to 3 months. And then after that 3-month period, it really becomes a pattern for people. And people get stuck in what I call the insomniac's paradox. We could talk about that, but so there's different stages, there's different levels. And depending on where you are on that journey, there's different things that work better for getting you off that journey as quick as possible and back to sleep. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So you kind of identify like what the stage is that people are at in their insomnia journey, and probably also look at what they've already tried.
Yeah.
Right?
So what most people I find try when they're having challenges with sleep is we always go to what's easy first, which is human nature. So we go, okay, let me buy some sleep supplements, some, valerian or kava kava or CBD oil or, some herbal thing. Let me try that. And, it might help, but then you might continue to have challenges with your sleep. And then okay, well, let me go on the internet and search for, how to solve this. And okay, sleep hygiene. I need to make my room cold and dark, and I need to, do some yoga breathing before bed, and I need to do all these things, which do help, but you might still continue to have challenges with your sleep. And then eventually you get to a place where you get anxiety and stress about sleep itself. And so this is where the paradox happens. So for someone who has chronic insomnia, who has struggled with this for years, it's really what I find in my practice is that most people get stuck here and they believe that they need to do all these things in order to sleep. But sleep is a natural biological process that happens when you let go of trying to force and control it. And so that's really the first area that's like below the surface that, people get very frustrated because they're trying. Sleep is the one thing, the harder you try, the worse it gets.
Not something to work hard at, is it?
It's not. It's actually the opposite. Yeah. In trying to work.
I teach a lot about like the conversation between the nervous system and our ability to sleep.
Yeah.
And how when our nervous systems are revved up, just like in our daily lives right now, right? It's just like go, information coming at you, news, confusion, uncertainty, right? Especially right now. And you were saying that your business has increased significantly since COVID started, which makes total sense. We're struggling as a global society to sleep. Let's see. Kathleen just sent in a question. She's a member of my program, and she says, I've been using a Fitbit and it gives me sleep analysis each night. I was surprised to see that I'm getting less than an hour of deep sleep when I'm actually sleeping 7 to 8 hours per night, asleep by 10 p.m. and up by 5:15 or 6 a.m. Is this normal?
That's a great question. So ideally, you want to shoot for about 20% of your total sleep time to be deep sleep. So
how do we initiate more deep sleep?
It's a great question, and I'm happy you asked. Yeah, so deep sleep. So when we're talking sleep quality, first off, you're already doing the first part of that, which is measuring it, because you can't manage what you don't measure. In all my programs, we measure the data and make decisions based off of feedback, objective feedback, not just subjective. And so knowing that you're already measuring your sleep, that's the first step, right? So now you have the awareness, hey, I'm not getting enough deep sleep, or I'd like to get more deep sleep. And so there's several things you could do. Now, a lot of this is really sleep hygiene stuff. So for those of you that are listening to this that have chronic insomnia, this probably isn't going to help you. But for somebody who asked the question, cold temperature. So either creating a cooler room, and I've tested this with clients. I've tested this and I've done case studies, tested this with myself, but dropping the temperature like to pretty cold, like 67 degrees, which is hard to do here in South Florida. but that actually will induce more deep sleep, 100%. One way you could also do that, there's fancy devices you can put on your bed that cool your body down. You can get this thing called the bed jet that cools your body down, but cold exposure, 100%. Now, even better than that is not eating 4 hours before you go to sleep. This would make all the difference with deep sleep. So one of the things that I constantly am focused on in my own sleep is getting more deep sleep. And the nights that I eat later, it always affects my deep sleep, always. So, even if so, eating earlier, having a bigger window between the time that you actually are asleep and your last meal of the day will make a tremendous difference in the quality and depth of
I
that.
love it. That totally aligns with earlier, later dinner, which is the first habit in the Vitality Circle, and the earlier, later dinner challenge is coming right up July 13th. So this is great for everybody to hear. And Kathleen, specifically, this is great for you to know, to get your family on board. Hope they're signing up for the earlier, later dinner challenge so that this can happen, right? So that there's that time period before you go to bed with no food intake. Excellent. I love it, Devin. It's so fun talking with you because I'm like, oh, and that's Ayurveda too, but you don't know it.
It's all, I'm sure it's all based in the same, it's just the evolution of probably what we already know.
The truth of how humans work, right?
Yeah.
But you have more of the modern science take on it, which is incredibly fascinating to me. So for folks that have well, I'm thinking about my father who, Dad, if you're on here, I think you're watching. If you want to type in any questions, well, I don't know if he's on here. I see my sister on here. Well, so I'm thinking about my father who is, has that insomnia that's like he's worried all the time about if he's going to get sleep. And so I keep giving him things to do. But one thing you just said is really fascinating to me, which is that what did you say? If we don't measure it, then we can't
manage it.
What's that?
We can't manage. We don't manage.
We can't manage.
Yeah.
We can't manage what we can't measure. That's what you said.
Yeah.
So, okay. Dad says he's here. So tell us your story, Robert Levin.
Let's help Dad out.
Your specific sleep struggles, Daddy-o? Yeah. Why don't you type in something there? So one of I will say something that frustrates me about what my father tries to do is that I think this is a psychological thing, but I'm curious what you will say to this, is that he feels like he needs to eat something before he goes to bed to sleep well. And then he also keeps a snack by his bed for if he wakes up in the middle of the night, that helps him go back to sleep. I see it more as a distraction for his nervous system than actual need, but I'm curious what you have to say.
Yeah, well, your dad and my dad are very similar.
Oh yeah? Because
my dad, I call him a night crawler. We'll get up in the middle of the night and he'll come and I'll get a snack every night. I say, Dad, don't do that. Why are you doing that? And he doesn't really eat that late, but yeah, this is fairly common. People like to go to bed on a full stomach. So it's not ideal, but we train our bodies. Our bodies love routine. So what we can actually train our bodies and our blood sugar and our insulin and, our chronobiology to hey, I'm going to drop some low blood sugar at this time because you've been doing this your entire life. So you're going to get hungry and you're going to feel the need to eat something. So that's a habit that you've trained your body to do. It's not really the truth. It's just a habit. And then as far as getting up in the middle of the night, usually it's a habit. So we program our bodies. Our bodies love routine. They love, knowing that they're going to get something at a certain time. That's why we usually go to the bathroom at the same time. That's why we usually get hungry at the same time. But sometimes these habits aren't beneficial. Oftentimes they're not beneficial. So what many people don't realize is you can change your body's habits. It does take a commitment and it does take, a desire to do so. But in doing that, your sleep will absolutely improve the quality of your sleep. Um, the worst time to eat really is right before bed, and especially throughout the night, because that's when your body, all the energy should be going to repair your cells. And instead, energy is being diverted to your stomach to try to digest this food that you just ate. And then you have less energy to clean up. The garbage men are like all tired because they've been spending all this time cleaning out the garbage in your intestines and in your stomach when they could be other places doing their job.
Yeah.
So
has this breakdown.
Yeah. So it's not ideal. I mean, there has to be a desire to break a habit.
Yeah.
And, but if you're looking to increase the quality and depth of your sleep, 100%, that is not, it's not going to help unless you know.
Yeah. So he just wrote in and he said right now he's falling asleep okay, but waking up after 4 hours.
Yeah. So very sleep maintenance insomnia. Mm-hmm. So that's very common for people. Sometimes, it's the body. It's like for people that have insomnia, it's kind of like how it develops. I like to describe it like the power goes out in your body. And so when the power goes out in your house, what do you have to do to the clock? You have to reset it. So the power goes out in your body over, it can keep going out and your body gets out of sync. So it's, okay, I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m. every morning because it just tells you that something is not in balance. Insomnia is all it is a sign that something is not in balance in how you're thinking or what you're doing. Usually it's a combination of both because our thoughts create our actions, right? So that's definitely, that's something that you can reset. And it starts with examining, well, what's going on here that's created this pattern. I mean, that's how I would address it.
Yeah. Yeah. We look at, so with the doshic clock between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. is Vata time, which is governed by the elements of air and space. So there's a natural lightening during that time. And a lot of people will tend to wake up or need to go pee during that time, or there's like this movement energy that comes in. And so again, it comes back to like the nervous system, right? And like you're saying, the preparation and the habituation of what's happening is really key there because it's a more subtle time. Teresa is wondering if it's fine to take 3 milligrams of melatonin to help sleep.
Yeah, so melatonin is the sleep hormone, or sometimes referred to as the vampire hormone that gets naturally released from our bodies as the sun starts to set. And so exogenously taking melatonin, I'm not a huge fan of. Because there are some studies that suggest that can disrupt your natural production of melatonin. So I'm not a big fan of melatonin. Yes, it definitely helps with sleep onset, but for a lot of people, it then disturbs the rest of their sleep, and then they end up waking up at an odd hour of the night because it was an unnatural amount. They've done studies too, where they've tested different melatonin supplement companies. Oh. And the dosage is never right. It's usually, they found that it's up to 400 times more or 40 times less than what's on the label, even within the same company and the same product. So for whatever reason, melatonin is hard to really know how much you're taking. It can be useful if you're traveling across time zones, but I wouldn't suggest, taking it every day as part of my sleep routine.
Yeah. Okay, Teresa, hope that helps. Okay, Ona says seeking snacks has felt to me, in my experience seeking before, like seeking something other than food, something to ground security and surety. Yeah, I think that's very true. Like when we're just kind of like, woo, in that early morning ungrounded time. Like,
yeah. I mean, you think about it. What do most people do when they're feeling stressed? They want to distract themselves. Food's a great one to use. You just go to the fridge and open it up, and it's like, oh, I know food's gonna make me feel good, so it changes your state.
Yeah.
So
do you have one or two techniques that you'd like to share with folks specifically for like during this time of COVID challenges and our world changing so much right now?
Yeah, so yeah, I do. There's so much uncertainty, and one of the biggest things, it's so simple, and probably people are sick of hearing this, but it's really like limit your news exposure, because it's every time you turn on the news, it's triggering a stress response. Now, I'm not saying the put your head under a rock and not know what's going on, but it's so addictive, and then when you're constantly turning on that stress switch, it's what you do throughout the entire day affects what's going to happen at night. And so when you're watching the news, and usually the news is negative at like 99.999% of the time, right? We're just getting stressed. We're getting that hit, and our minds don't know the difference between what's real and what's not. Like you know what's imagined and what's actually here. So the body gets the stress switch gets stayed on.
Yeah.
And so, and then the more that switch is on without going off, you know, if you don't have good vagal tonality because you're doing some other practices, which I'm sure you teach a lot of with yoga and things, but it's just so tuning out from the news, checking it once in the morning, and then just like not looking at it, right? Just
definitely not before going to bed.
Please, God, no. The worst thing if I can tell you exactly what to do to have a terrible night of sleep, leave the TV on all night and listening to CNN or NBC or whatever it is that you listen to. You want to have terrible sleep and wake up and feel terrible? Definitely do that. If you don't, turn it off, because it really does make a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. And then the blue light too. That's another thing that activates the brain too, right?
For sure. Absolutely.
The way most of us receive it. Okay. Tracy has a question. I've been waking many times in the night, more than ever. Can quiet my mind, but tons of energy in my body. Suggestions.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of hard I don't really know your full health history and what's going on, how old you are.
Yeah, she's in her early 50s. She lives out in Colorado, so it's very dry and up high elevation.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it could be something hormonal, really. I mean, so again, your body's speaking to you. It's telling you something. You know, I don't have off the cuff a solution for you, unfortunately, because I just don't know. I need to know a lot more information, but yeah, but I would say that that's a sign that something is out of balance, possibly hormones, possibly stress. You know, it's just, again, our bodies speak to us. So whenever something abnormal is going on, all it is a sign that something's not in balance. Yeah. That's it. So it's a matter of figuring out, well, what's going on? So that takes a little bit more discovery, and hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah. I call it entering the conversation.
There you go. I like that.
Like, let's have a dialogue here, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One last question here from Jennifer. Do you have any suggestions for how to fall back to sleep when you wake up in the middle of the night?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So again, depending on, you know, your sleep history and not knowing anything about you, so what people tend to do, one of the biggest mistakes people make is actually staying in bed too long. So there's a lot of things in sleep that are actually very paradoxical. So you think, oh, well, I'm not getting enough sleep, so I'm going to stay in bed longer. Mistake. So if you wake up and you're lying in bed for more than between 15 and 20 minutes, you're going to want to get out of bed, because what you're doing by staying in bed is actually training your mind and body that bed equals being awake. And that's not what we want. So I would recommend, when you wake up, if you're not able to fall back asleep within a reasonable time period, and not look, you know, kind of don't really look at the clock, try to just kind of feel this one out, because that can create more stress and anxiety. You want to remove yourself from the bedroom and go do something relaxing, something boring, knitting, reading, not on your phone, not working. You know, do something, stretching, some, you know, literally just sitting there. Like, do something that's boring when you get sleepy, and get back in bed.
Great. Excellent. Thank you. I've so enjoyed talking with you today, Devin. Thank you so much for coming on to be one of our inspirational interviews. So tell us where folks can find us and if you have anything you'd like to share in terms of offers with our group.
Yeah, so you can find me at sleepscienceacademy.com. devinburke.com is my speaker website, but Sleep Science Academy, that's where all the good sleep stuff is. And I have a ton of free things you can get on there. If you are suffering from insomnia, I have a free web class that you can enroll in. I have a sleep quiz that you can take to figure out what type of insomnia you have and then really start getting some support to solving that. So you can find all that at sleepscienceacademy.com. And Devin Burke Wellness on Instagram or Sleep Science Academy on Instagram and all the social media stuff. You can find me there as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. I hope this was beneficial for all of you viewers today, and more folks will be watching this later. So
Cool.
as we see responses, we'll celebrate having you on here. And I hope we can continue to cross paths as we see links between Ayurveda and modern sleep science.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I'm looking forward to sharing your interview with everyone as too. I had the opportunity to interview Hannah. We went deep on Ayurveda sleep hacks, and I learned all about the doshas, and it was really cool. So that'll be coming out here soon. So I'm looking forward to sharing that. And thanks for coming on to my channel.
My pleasure. Glad to get to share each other's wisdom with our communities.
Yeah,
So have a
it's
great
awesome.
rest of your day.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.